And it hurt so badly. It hurt to sprint, it hurt to kick, but like I needed to be on the field.
On episode 9, we had Claire Mone. Claire shares a secret to standing out at any ID clinic.
She told me that was an identifier. That set me apart from the rest of the group. It's such a little thing, but it makes a difference and it makes you stand out.
Claire talks about her recruitment process.
Like I committed on the spot. Like before the game, the coach was like, "So I'm just wondering," and I was like, "Yeah, like I think I'm gonna come here."
Wow. Finally, Claire leaves us with advice for anyone trying to play college soccer.
Playing hard while you're on the field and knowing that you only have so much time to do that, 80 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever it is, like that's your time on the field. You can only do so much. Like make your mark.
So BenzBoots POD, and now we have Claire Mone. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Claire.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like we were trying to do this podcast for so long, but it was so hard to kind of figure out a time.
Yeah.
But it's good that we got it. And we're actually in the Milton Academy Student Center.
We are.
Do you like the setup?
I do. I like it.
Yeah.
A few buildings were locked, but this works.
Yeah, it works. It works right now. And so I think we'll just hop into it now.
Yeah.
But so can you kind of talk about where you played before and how you kind of got to coming to Denison?
Yeah, so I am from Martha's Vineyard, so I played there my whole life. I played town travel soccer growing up, and then in 5th grade I started ODP because the level of play on the Vineyard and on the Cape just wasn't enough for me. So I played ODP, and then I started club soccer the following year with 3 other girls from the Vineyard. So we carpooled together a few times a week to Weymouth.
How far is that drive?
So it's about an hour from the boat, and then 45 minutes.
Jeez.
From like the boat ride is 45 minutes, and then 15 minutes from my house. So in middle school, I would leave school like an hour early. I'd leave at 2:00. I'd take the boat, go to practice, and I'd get home about 10:30. So it was typically like 7 hours round trip, 2 times a week for practice, and then 1 to 2 games every weekend.
Jeez.
So I mean, it was great though. Like
but that's insane. That's like a lot to travel. I feel like if my practice is like further than like an hour and a half away, then I'm like not gonna go. But that's crazy.
A lot of it was like the boat schedule. So there was a waiting period like before and after practice because the boats didn't line up perfectly. So we'd just get there early and we'd kick around, and that was really fun.
And then so after practice, if the boat schedule's like not like, so what do you do after practice if they're when
I first started ODP, going to Lancaster was a haul, like 2 hours there, 2 hours back. And because of the timing, we had to stay in a hotel like once a week, I think.
Oh, wow.
So every Sunday night,
it's dedication.
my friends and I would stay in a hotel, and we'd get on the boat at 6 a.m. the next morning and go straight to school. So we had to pack. It was crazy, but I loved it. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely helped you get to where you are now.
Totally, yeah.
Sure,
I don't know. If I hadn't been introduced to ODP and then to club soccer, then I wouldn't be where I am. So
that's crazy. That's crazy. That's great to hear. And so you also played for Milton Academy.
Yeah.
Right?
So freshman year, I played at the Martha's Vineyard Regional High School, but we didn't have a season because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
We were the only team in our league that chose not to play.
Oh, really?
Which was crazy. It was definitely a bummer for me.
For sure, yeah.
I practiced with the team as an 8th grader, so I was ready to play. The team was not good. There were a few girls that were decent, and 2 girls in the grade ahead of me were good. And then there was another girl in my grade who was really good, and the 4 of us were the ones that played club together. And there was a goalie who was a senior who also started playing club with us, and she's at Bates now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But everyone else hadn't really played soccer before.
Jeez.
So there were people on the varsity team that had 1-2 years of soccer experience.
Wow. That's
so my freshman year.
Yeah, how many games did you guys win? Or you guys didn't
We
play?
didn't have any games.
Yeah, you didn't play.
The one game we had, this made me so mad. We had one game, but it was a scrimmage like between the varsity team, and I sprained my ankle the week before. I got kicked, and I wasn't allowed to play.
Oh, that's so annoying.
So the one game my freshman year I couldn't play.
Yeah,
but
that's annoying.
I noticed that, like, athletically I wasn't getting a ton out of Vineyard soccer.
Yeah.
And also academically, I had no trouble in school.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
really feel like my teachers were taking classes seriously.
Oh, that's
So
annoying.
I applied to boarding schools, not really thinking that I'd go, but just to have options.
Yeah.
And so I applied to St. George's, Milton, and Brooks, and I got into all three.
Okay.
And I decided that Brooks and St. George's were too far. And then it was just the question of, like, am I actually going to boarding school? Like, am I really going to go and live at school away from my family? And thankfully I have family in Milton, so that's been really helpful.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, so now I'm here, and I'm so glad that I made the switch. I have gotten so much out of the school and taken advantage of all the opportunities that it has to offer me. But yeah, it was a big switch for sure.
No, for sure. I mean, that's crazy. I feel like, I mean, now since like we both go to the same school, and so we see everyone who's boarders, but like it's kind of crazy to think that like all you guys kind of like left your homes and like now just like living alone and stuff. But yeah, and so how did your Milton season go, and how did that whole experience go?
Yeah, so
or like the whole Milton experience.
I love Milton soccer. I've had such great experiences through the program. My sophomore year, I feel like I was able to integrate really seamlessly onto the team.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up being a starter like right when I got there, which was
Nice.
awesome because I went into it not sure how the team would be, not sure if I was going to get playing time. But we had a decent season my sophomore year, which was great. Last year, my junior year, we were also pretty good. And then this year, we were significantly better,
Nice.
which I think can definitely be attributed to the mindset of the team and our desire to play competitive, good soccer, and then also a coaching change. So, Coach
And you're
A,
also captain this year, right?
Yes, I was
That's
captain this
sick,
year.
that's sick,
So, yeah, I feel like I'm naturally a leader just because I'm a center back and because I'm vocal because I'm a center back. So it didn't make a huge difference, but definitely off the fields, like behind the scenes stuff with the coaches, figuring out little issues within the team. It definitely, it's tough, but I loved it. So
wait, so can I ask? So I feel like a lot of players might struggle with being like raising their voice in the game, and so do you have any advice for players who are trying to be more of a vocal specimen on the field?
I think that being vocal is so important. Even for me, I think just hearing someone's voice, even if they're not saying anything important or special, hearing someone's voice is a comfort for me because as a center back, knowing that someone's behind me, hearing the goalie talk, like knowing that other people are watching the field and seeing something other than I'm seeing is really helpful. So minor things like saying shift left, shift right, step 2, man on, whatever it is, it's helpful. It's reassuring to your teammates. It lets them know that they're not alone. And obviously they're not. There are 11 people on the field on your team, but hearing someone else is always really reassuring.
No, for sure. I think that can also help yourself as well, because like when I talk, maybe I'm having a bad game, but if I'm helping my teammate out, it almost helps me as well. You know, it's like I kind of get a boost of confidence as well. So it's definitely good to be talking and communicating on the field.
Yeah, I think it also, like, for me, it helps me stay in tune because it's so easy to get distracted.
No, for sure.
I think.
For sure.
So, saying something, like, knowing that I have to focus on little things is really helpful for me.
And so, actually, we'll talk more about this Milton season. So, do you have any pregame rituals or?
Yeah. So I feel like I was saying this earlier, but there's so many little things that I do that I've been doing for so long that it doesn't feel like a routine anymore.
It's like a habit,
just things
right?
I do. But for the Milton season, like, we have specific pregame rituals. So we have everyone write down an individual and a team goal.
Okay.
And then tell the team. And we
also have
it's a really good one. I think it's super helpful.
What were some of your goals that you had?
So a lot of my individual goals were like playing aggressive, communicating, stepping to the ball when I can, and taking offensive opportunities. So like driving, taking space, making overlapping runs, which I think is really unpredictable as a center back, and it's definitely an asset to be able to drive and take people on because nobody ever expects it.
Right. That's a great point.
So that's a good one. And then like being communicative and open with the goalie especially is really helpful because I always get really stressed with goal kicks. I just hate like having someone run at me and like just knowing that I only have the goalie behind me. So things like that. And then team goals are always like being positive, like having good mindsets, scoring early, and just keeping energy and intensity up throughout the game. Because I think in my Milton career,
I don't know who that is. Is that Josh?
Oh, it's Anna. In my Milton career, I've definitely found that, and in sports in general, like going down in a game is so disheartening. And so being able to keep energy and intensity up and play competitively to try to tie it up or to take a lead is so hard, but it's really important.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I guess so we did your pregame ritual. So how about like your postgame? Like, do you have any like maybe recovery things that you do, or maybe some things that kind of help you get locked in for the next game?
Yeah. So stretching is really important to me. Like before and after every game, I need to take time to do stationary stretching and also dynamic stretches.
Okay.
So after every game, I just need to make sure that I'm not tight because for recovery purposes, obviously.
And I feel like this is a pretty basic question, but just what are some stretches like that you like to do that we should make sure like, all soccer players like
the pigeon stretch.
Okay,
that one's really good.
Yeah.
Quad stretching is really important, and groins. I feel like my quads and groins are always really tight. So those are really important muscles.
For sure.
And just like stretching everything because it's all connected. And like once something goes wrong, everything else goes wrong.
Totally. Have you had any injuries?
Yeah. So right now, my quad is partially torn, which happened at the beginning of the season, but I played through it. So.
Oh, I think I saw you wearing like a wrap.
I should have stopped playing.
Yeah.
So it happened at the beginning of the season, and I took a week off because I thought that it was just strained or sore or whatever. I was like, I don't want this to affect the rest of my season. So I took a week off, felt really good, went back into a game. It was against Exeter. And
was that the first game or no?
No, it was at the beginning of the season, end of September probably. So I went into that game, was playing great, felt great.
Yeah.
At the end of the second half, I made a pass, which was an assist, so it was like worth it.
Okay, yeah.
But I felt my quad pull, and like after that moment, I needed a sub, and from that moment on, it just like wasn't the same. And so I barely practiced. I practiced probably like 1 to 2 times a week, only pregame practices. I was in the trainers every day doing my rehab and like different treatments on my quad.
Yeah.
And then would just play in games, and it hurt so badly. It hurt to sprint, it hurt to kick, but like I needed to be on the field.
Yeah.
So it was totally worth it. And then I took 2 months off after the season. I didn't run. I didn't do anything like quad dominant. So I thought I felt really good. I started playing basketball. I played for 2 weeks, and it started hurting again.
Really?
And so I'd gotten an MRI at the end of the soccer season to see if I had like a stress fracture, which I didn't really think it was. But they ruled that out, which was great. And then I finally got an MRI a few weeks ago, and they told me that out of my 4 quad muscles, like on my left quad, 3 of them are strained and 1 of them is partially torn.
Jeez. And so what are you gonna just do?
So I have to do like shock therapy, which I don't really know what that entails. So they said that shock therapy has been really helpful with athletes especially. They're not really sure why, but they said it has been, which is great.
Yeah.
So right now, my goal is to just heal fully before my season so that I can be ready by August.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then, so you talked about basketball, and so, obviously you're pretty athletic, and so what do you think basketball has maybe helped you on the soccer field as well, or do you think it's hindered you?
Yeah, totally. I think like all sports are connected, so being able to like be coordinated in different ways. So like I definitely think that soccer and basketball translate in some ways. So like movement wise, like being able to sprint in short intervals is helpful. And then just like movement. I think that there are different movements in basketball and soccer because soccer is obviously a bigger field.
Right, yeah.
And with in basketball, you have to be moving at all times because if you're not, like, you're not going to get the ball or someone's going to steal it. Like, you always have to be moving. And so that off-the-ball mentality has really helped me because I just never stop moving my feet in soccer.
For sure. Also just like you're working different muscles as well,
right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And so like I remember I used to do swimming and like it's a
I
completely
did too.
different
Nice.
But it's a completely different workout,
Totally.
you know? And so like your body's moving in ways it like usually doesn't because you're playing soccer so much, you know?
Yeah, and I think cross training is so important. So like biking, swimming especially. Like my dad was a swimmer, so
nice.
He doesn't let me stop swimming.
Really?
Yeah,
Nice.
But it's helpful, especially for recovery.
Okay. And so do you so we talked about recovery a little bit, but how about like gym exercises? Do you have any like lifts that you recommend or any lifts that you kind of do?
I think band work is really important, especially like because of my quad. Like I do that all the time. little things like step ups, like even without weights, like body weight training, I think is really important. I think because I'm a female athlete, injury prevention has been stressed so much by coaches and trainers. Because
Emmy said that too, actually.
Yeah, like ACL is such a big risk, and it happens so much with like female athletes, teenage athletes. Between it's like there's like an age range, and it's like that's when you're gonna. There was one season in club that.
Wait, what's the age range? What's the range?
I want to say it's probably like 14 to 18 or something. But there was one club season where 2 girls on my team tore their ACLs.
Jeez.
And I think it was within 2 games or something. Like it was really close together.
That's so tough.
Yeah.
That's so tough. Oh yeah. So I mean, obviously you're committed to Denison, and so I feel like we haven't touched on that yet. But so can you kind of talk about how that process kind of looked and how like that commitment process all kind of went down?
Yeah. So I didn't really know a ton about Denison until last summer because a friend on my club team had just committed there. And so I wasn't in touch with the Denison coach until probably like June of my junior year, like right after junior year. And so I talked to the Denison coach. I went to a clinic that she was going to be at, and she watched my games. I talked to her right after. She was super engaging. She reminded me exactly of Coach A, my Milton coach.
Coach A.
So that was awesome. And my mom was waiting for me because she'd taken me to the clinic. I didn't realize there was a line of people behind me.
Really?
Waiting to talk to her, and she just didn't care.
Wow.
She talked to me for 20 minutes. The clinic had ended early because of lightning. She didn't care. Like, she was totally engaged and was asking me about personal life, about academic life, about soccer, and I felt like we just connected really, really well and had a ton in common. And she hadn't started at Denison yet, so this past fall was her first season with the team. So I think that going to a new place, like my class was her first recruiting class, so I think that helped her bond with me and other people. So I instantly liked her, and that was definitely a big selling point for me.
For sure, yeah.
And
I mean, the coach can definitely be like the biggest part.
So important. So she ended up calling my club coach that night in the car. And she texted me and was like, I don't usually do things this quickly, but like I want you to come visit.
Wow.
And so
nice.
I went and visited in August, and there weren't students there, which was tough, but there were people on my tour. So there was like a football recruit, and the person that was my tour guide was, I think he did something with like the theater department, and he was from Texas and was talking about all the opportunities that he had at Denison. And so like the people there instantly, like everyone was so kind and welcoming, and like that's something that I've heard about the Midwest, because like I never thought that I'd see myself in Ohio. Like
that's a great point.
People make jokes about it. Like I get it, and sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm going to school in Ohio. It's just like, do I really want to tell people that? But I'm super excited about it. So then I was deciding between MIT and Denison because those were just my top 2 schools. I felt like academically and athletically, like they had the most to offer for me. And I ultimately decided on Denison because I felt like if soccer would be taken away from me at any point, I could see myself there more than MIT. And I didn't, obviously soccer played a huge role in my process and making that decision, but I didn't want it to be the deciding factor.
Right. I mean, because you're going to the school. It's not, right? It's not like you're just on the team. It's like,
and like I know that post-college, like I'm not playing soccer. Like I'll play as much as I can, but like it's not like I'm going to school solely for soccer, and so I needed to think about all the different aspects of it.
That's a great point.
I visited again in September and watched the team play, and that was also a huge thing. I watched an MIT game and a Denison game, and like they were just different, like entirely different teams, and I felt like I could fit in more on the Denison team. So I watched one of their games. I stayed overnight with my friend in her dorm.
Okay, nice.
I met
so
the
she
whole
goes
team.
to Denison.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the freshman class like welcomed me. I literally spent the whole weekend with them. Like I felt like I was best friends with them.
Wow.
Like they were just so nice, and I felt like fitting in with that team like it was a really good idea for me.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. I mean, no, that's all really great.
I mean, like I committed on the spot. Like before the game, the coach was like, "So I'm just wondering," and I was like, "Yeah, like I think I'm gonna come here."
Wow.
So
and so, what did the visits look like? So when you visited that college?
Yeah. So for me, my first visit, which I guess was like my unofficial visit, was in August. So I took a tour of the school with like an actual tour guide, and I did an information session just to get a general sense of the campus, the classes, like what my time at Denison would look like. And then the coaches gave me a tour of the athletic facility, which is so nice. It was like recently redone. It was crazy.
Wow, that's cool.
And so she gave me a tour of that and asked me if I had any questions. And it was hard because she couldn't answer a ton of them because it was her first year. Right? Like she hadn't even experienced like a season there yet. But that was kind of reassuring for me because I was like, okay, like she's honest about it. Like she's not trying to answer questions that she doesn't know the answer to. So that was really helpful.
Nice. Yeah. And so I guess the main recruiter for you, the main thing that got you recruited was the ID clinic, correct?
Yeah. So the ID clinic was helpful, and then also having film is really important.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess if you could tell all our viewers, like, it's maybe some advice that you give to people who are trying to get recruited.
Yeah, I'd say when you're at clinics, the coach told me in particular she really liked the way that I communicated and interacted with my teammates. I think at clinics it can be really hard because you don't know anyone to be social and to be outgoing and uplifting. But giving people a high five as you're going on and off the fields, like she told me that was an identifier.
Wow.
Like that set me apart from the rest of the group because I gave people a high five, even though I didn't know them. And it's such a little thing, but it makes a difference and it makes you stand out. And I think especially as a center back, I communicate more than other people on the field. But again, just communicating is so important. And the coaches are going to look at you because they're hearing your voice. Like it makes it so that even if you're not playing well, like they are forced to watch you. Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that in for a second. That was really good. Yeah, that was really good. Wow. What was I going to say? Yeah, that was really good. Wait, so we were kind of talking before, and so there was a couple other maybe D1 programs that you're looking at. And so can you kind of talk about how like that kind of like
so junior year, the summer of my junior year, that was like when I really started the recruiting process and going to clinics. So I went to clinics at UVM and Columbia.
So would you definitely say like going to clinics is like a really important?
Going to clinics is so important. Okay. It's really annoying. Like they're expensive, they're inconvenient, but like if you really want a coach to look at you specifically, like it's important. And I also thought for me, it was such a great way to get a sense of the program and the coaches themselves. So when I went to the UVM clinic, I was so pleased and pleasantly surprised by the coach because she explained, she was like, okay, we're going to do this drill, and we're doing this drill because it's something that we do before every game. So like it gave me a view into their season and how their team operates. So that was really helpful for me.
And so, I mean, for players who haven't gone to ID clinics before, what do they kind of look like?
I mean,
I guess it could vary.
It totally varies, but a lot of it you're going to start with some specific technical stuff. So passing, receiving, moving, things like that. Then you'll move into a small-sided game, whether it's 3v3, 6v6, whatever it is, and then you'll move to a bigger fields and play 11v11.
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
That's typically.
And so definitely, the little things will help you stand out.
The little things, yeah,
there,
totally.
Right? And so, well, obviously this is a cleat company, and so Claire, do you think that cleats affect the way that you play?
I do think they affect the way that I play. I think that like comfort is a really huge thing for me, and so I've had cleats that are too narrow, and then it's like that's all I can think about because it's like they're too tight on my feet. For sure. And I also think I really like playing with a sock on my cleat because I have really, like, my ankles are horrible. I always have an ankle injury. I get them taped before every game. And so having that extra stability is important for me. But also just like the way that your foot feels hitting a ball, like it varies so much.
It really
between
does.
Cleats.
It really does.
It's crazy. Like getting a new pair of cleats, I'm like, oh, I don't like this. Like I just have like, And so if you guys do want to get a new pair of cleats, go on BenzBoots.com. We have great deals on all the cleats. So we got Nike, Puma, Adidas, whatever you want. So go on the website, sign up, and you can start buying some cleats. Yeah. And so, Claire, you're a center back. And so do you have any tips for center backs specifically? I think, like I said, communication is so important. Like staying connected as a back four. I think this past season at Milton, we did so many drills about just staying connected. Wow. 1 or 2 practices, they actually attached us with rope. Like we had to hold rope, and we all had to shift together. And I think having a good shape is really important. So communicating with your other center back and outside backs, like, makes such a difference defensively and helps your team play better.
I want to see this drill. What does it look like?
It was like we had rope.
Yeah.
And I think the first time they did it, it was like trial and error. So the first time they did it, they like tied it to our pennies.
Okay.
And it was weird.
Yeah,
it was like the ropes were different lengths, and so it didn't always work. And then another time we were just holding it. I think people ended up falling at points because it was like you can't trip over it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it definitely could have been improved, but like the idea of it, like we definitely
I like that. That's a good idea. It's a really good idea. Yeah,
and it was a more fun way than your typical like just shifting drill with the cones, like the one that everyone does. So that was fun. And then I think body positioning, like keeping your head on a swivel and keeping your hips open is so important. Like I hate when I just have to sprint back and it's just me and another person and I wasn't prepared. So like reading balls, like body language from another player, like if you see someone's head go down, like start getting back. Like you know they're kicking it long. Yeah. Be ready so that you can win that header, so that you can take a first touch even if it's out of bounds, so that you're not in a foot race or in a 1v1 when it's a dangerous position.
For sure.
I feel like I was going to say something else. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that's all good.
Oh, and also the other thing is reading another person's, like, demeanor. So, like, did they just make a mistake? Like, do they seem frustrated? Like, how can I take advantage of the person I'm playing against? So, like, reading them, like, are they playing with their left or right foot dominantly? Like, I need to know which way to force this person. Like, is this someone that I can get in their head? And I'm not a huge person. Like, I'm not going to, like, talk to someone, talk trash to them. Like, that's not how I get in someone's head. But, like, if I have to be a little bit more aggressive to get in someone's head, I will do that.
For sure.
And, like, knowing, like, oh, this person made a mistake, so, like, I'm just going to be on them. I'm going to be right next to them. I'm going to be annoying and get in their head. Because there's so many different ways of doing that. And, like, making yourself known to your opponent is so important and just plays. Like, it does so much.
No, I mean, soccer is definitely... I heard, like, a quote. It's, like, 90% play with, like, your head and, like, the 10% is, like, with your feet.
It's
so it's,
so
like, a
mental
game, right? Yeah. And so I'm wondering, has there ever been moments where maybe you've, like, lost confidence? Because what I've heard from, like, the other people who've been on this podcast is that that confidence is really big. Confidence is key. So has there been moments where maybe you've lost your confidence that you've kind of had to regain it, or maybe,
Yeah, I mean, I think I lose my confidence, like, multiple times a game. Like, as a center back, like, if a goal is scored, it feels like my fault. Even if I wasn't involved in the play, like, it feels like I did something wrong. And, like, I'm so glad I'm not a goalie.
I know, right?
It's just that much harder. But I think that all the time I get beat or I step when I shouldn't step. Like, I know that I shouldn't step, but I'm tired and I don't want to run. And so, like, I make a decision that I know I shouldn't make, or I just haven't thought about it enough. And I get frustrated with myself. But I think staying focused and, like, being able to move past that, like, goldfish mentality is so important, especially as a defender, because if I stay in my head, like, I'm not going to play well. I know that.
For sure, yeah. Well, you mentioned kind of, like, losing like fitness and stuff, and so what would you say, like, you do for cardio, or maybe, like, to prepare for a season? What do you usually
cross training? Like, every summer I bike a ton, so doing, like, short intervals, like high intensity interval training on the bike is really important.
Stationary bike, or do you go
stationary bike? Swimming is really helpful just for, like, stamina cardio standpoint. Having, like, the lung capacity to, like, swimming is hard because you have to hold your breath. Like, it's that much harder. But that's really helpful. And then varying the running I do, so, like, short sprints and also longer distances to, like, figure out, like, what I need to do. And then changing direction. It was really helpful this past season because Coach A, the head Milton coach, sent us a packet, and she was like, this is going to be our fitness test. I'm going to give you a week-by-week thing of things that you should be doing. It's going to increase. It's going to get harder. But so that was helpful, just helping me.
What was the fitness
stay
test
on
at
track.
the end?
The fitness test, so it was kind of like the Man U.
Okay.
So it was 100 yards, and it was 20 seconds down, 40 seconds back.
Oh, my God.
And you had to do it 15 times.
Jeez.
And then we also had to do a mile in 7:30, which was...
Continue.
So we had to do a mile in 7.5 minutes, which was at night. Jeez. So it was, like, I think it was
That's crazy. What the heck?
The tryout that we did with you guys, and we ended up playing soccer tennis. We did our mile right beforehand in the pitch black.
So you were just gassed.
So I mean, it was like fine. We hadn't done a ton that day. And then we also did 40-yard sprints, which I don't think it played a huge role in like the coaches deciding who was on the team or not. But we had to do 3 40-yard sprints, I think, just so that they could see like our acceleration, our short distance sprinting, things like that.
I mean, I think for players who are trying to make the Milton team, like, I mean, if, like, just being in shape helps a lot.
Being in shape helps so much.
Yeah,
but I also think like I've met people who come into tryouts and are really fit, but they don't have
the technical ability.
And so they're like, wait, I don't get it. Like, I finished this fitness test before everyone. Like, why am I not on the team? But so like I think knowing that there's so many different factors. Exactly. Being fit is really helpful, and like it helps you play better, because if you're not tired and you don't have to think about your body, you're gonna play better.
No, totally. And has there been any mentors throughout your journey that's kind of stuck out? Maybe coaches.
I mean, so growing up, my mom was one of my coaches. She played in college, so like I've always had that. And then in middle school, one of my best friends, her dad was always our coach. It was always our parents, and we played club together. So he was a great coach for me. Just he had a lot of confidence in me, and that helped me grow and improve as a player. And then my club coach, he's been my coach since 6th grade probably. He's still my coach. I have an awesome relationship with him. He can be really blunt, but he's also hilarious and has such a good relationship with every single person on the team. And there have been moments where there were moments where I didn't feel super confident, and I didn't think that he had a ton of confidence in me, because he'd make comments like, oh, but you're not the fastest person on the field. And like that was something I was insecure about, because I was like, I know I'm not the fastest person on the field, and there are so many other things that I have to do to compensate for that. So there were times where like that was really difficult for me, but his belief in me has just always helped me. And I think that when he talked to the Denison coach, he spoke so highly of me, that really was a selling point for her, and she told me that. So I have so much appreciation for him in that sense. And then also Coach A and Coach Kaan here at Milton have helped me so much. I think Coach A was new to Milton the same year that I was new, so we kind of came in together. We joined the program together. We joined the school together. So in that sense, we have so much in common, and she's just helped me so much, whether it's with feedback or with confidence, like mental stuff, just like uplifting me, being like, hey bud, you're doing great. Like,
shout out like Coach A.
Yeah, totally. Like absolutely. Like it's awesome.
No, she's amazing. And also, like we were saying about like having someone that believes in you, it's so important.
It really important.
Is, because like whether it's like, I mean, you're gonna lose a little bit of belief in yourself throughout your journey for sure. So having like a parent, a coach, an uncle, whoever it is, you know, just like
anything.
It's so important. And so I think we'll kind of just wrap up here. But so what advice would you leave for people watching this, or what advice would you wish you kind of had when you were going through this journey?
I think just be confident in yourself. There are always going to be bumps in the road. Like for me, it was like I got ghosted by so many schools, and it was because of the club team I played for. I was saying earlier, like I live on an island and I go to boarding school, so I don't have the flexibility that other people have with club, and that kind of eliminated a ton of options for me college-wise. Like coaches expressed interest in me and recognized that I was a good player and I could hang with all these people. I got recognition from the league. Like I knew that I was a good player, but because of the club team I played for, I just didn't have as many opportunities. And so that was really disheartening, but staying confident in yourself and knowing that things are going to work out, like it's really important. Just playing hard while you're on the field and knowing that you only have so much time to do that, 80 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever it is, like that's your time on the fields. You can only do so much, like make your mark, I guess.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything else. That was amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast,
Claire.
Thank
you for having me.
And I think we'll end it here.
Perfect.
Peace.